I think maybe we should get started. Welcome, everyone. I'm Janice Selinger, Executive Director of Crossroads of the American Revolution. We're happy you could join us today for the Fall Revolution NJ quarterly update. We're making great progress on a number of fronts, and today we'll be sharing some opportunities and timelines that we hope you'll be excited about. As you can see, we're on a webinar format today, and we'll have time for Q&A at the end of the presentation. Please pose your questions in the Q&A, and we will get to them at the end of the presentation. As you can see, can you change the slide, please? We have a really packed agenda. And we're going to be hearing from a guest speaker as part of our presentation today, Kenneth Cohen from Made by Us. So we're excited about his presentation. Change the slide, please. We are getting the word out. At our last quarterly meeting, we heard about communication planning for Revolution NJ from Tom Sullivan of Princeton Partners, who is our consultant for our communications work. I know most of you are interested in the Revolution NJ brand and how you can use it for your sites and events. Princeton Partners is working with us on developing a comprehensive multi-stage communications plan that will inform and engage the people who are essential to Revolution NJ's success. This will start later this year to make sure all partners are aligned and informed. Even though you might not see a big public splash in the next couple of months, there's much work going on behind the scenes. As we approach the anniversary date, communications to the general public will ramp up with the tools and message to market New Jersey as a must-see destination for heritage travelers. Look for brand guidelines for the Revolution NJ brand in the first half of 2022. We've also been working to spread the word in the heritage tourism industry. I recently moderated a panel during the Alliance for National Heritage Areas meeting, where I spoke about our work in New Jersey on the 250th. We also heard from Freedom's Way National Heritage Area based in Massachusetts, and from Kelsey Millay from America 250, and Tom Medema and others from the National Park Service. They spoke about what's happening right now and also ways that people in all parts of the country can participate in the commemoration. I'm also going to be speaking on a panel at the Teaching Through Tourism Symposium in New Orleans in a couple of weeks. I'll be on a panel with Terry Brown, who's the Director of Federal Partnerships for America 250. And this is also a great chance to talk about what we have planned in New Jersey with tour operators and tourism destination leaders. Next slide, please. Crossroads is also completing our first of a planned statewide series of audio tours. We've talked about some of this before, but the one that we are kicking off is the story of 10 Crucial Days. We anticipate it launching in early December. Next will be The Road to Morristown. We've also been recommended for a grant from the Preserve New Jersey Historic Preservation Fund for the next audio tour route, which is the Retreat Across the Jerseys, with the spur route from Elizabeth to Morristown to tell the story of the battles of Connecticut Farms and Springfield. The Crossroads audio tour series includes stories of the war's impact on New Jerseyans of all backgrounds and the hard choices they made during the conflict, with accounts of the enslaved, free Blacks, women and children. Heritage travelers will find a deeper, more nuanced understanding of life in New Jersey during the late 18th century. Next slide, please. Crossroads, as the private partner with the New Jersey Historical Commission, is continuing to work with our development consultant, the Compass Group, on research towards the fundraising campaign for Revolution NJ. Compass has started conducting interviews for a feasibility study. We've created a compelling case for support for the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity that Revolution NJ offers, a comprehensive campaign to generate interest in New Jersey's Revolutionary era history, coupled with the support for brick and mortar construction and historic site upgrades to facilitate a full-scale tourism push in time for the 250th anniversary in 2026. In the meantime, we'd like to share some great funding news that offers a strong endorsement of New Jersey's revolutionary resources and great ideas that some of our member groups are already working on. Specifically, the National Park Service recently awarded American Battlefield Protection Program Battlefield Interpretation grants for 2 projects. Princeton Battlefield State Park and the American Battlefield Trust is going to receive $93,500 for items including traditional brochures, audio tour, and augmented reality technology for the battlefield. And the Camden Historical Society was awarded $150,000 for an audio app and signage project that will include Crossroads interpretive signage. We're hearing about more and more grant opportunities connected to the 250th, and we will continue to share this information. So please watch your mailbox for links for these opportunities. I'd now like to introduce Sarah Curitin, who's the Executive Director of the New Jersey Historical Commission. Sarah?
Thank you, Janice. And welcome everyone to today's webinar. I'm going to pick up on that same theme that Janice was addressing, and that is where can any group that would like to participate and develop programs for the 250th find funding to do that. And I wanted to highlight for you 5 ways in which the New Jersey Historical Commission's grant program is right now making funds available for planning and preparation for the 250th and beyond, of course. So first of all, in the next few weeks, you'll be hearing an announcement of a special grant program that we've created that is designed to help organizations really dig in and address issues related to diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion. So that program we expect is going to roll out this fall and make funds available to groups to apply for consultants to assist in really digging into how your organization can address those critical issues. Second, we will have project grants available in 2022 for a variety of projects. Many of you have applied to this program before. So we fund everything from exhibitions to research to publications to educational programs, events, media projects, and more. Third, we do offer general operating support grants, and very shortly we will announce the deadlines for the next round and cycle of those. Fourth, some of you last year may have participated in our COVID relief grant program, and I'm happy to tell you that our intention is to offer a second round of those grants this year. So again, please look closely, keep an eye on our website, history.nj.gov, and on your email box for updated information about a second round of COVID grants. And then finally, as many of you know who have applied to us in the past, we do have a second really critical grant program that the Commission offers, and that's our re-grant program that we offer in partnership with all 21 New Jersey counties. We call that the County History Partnership Program, or CHIP. And on our website, you will find a list of the county agencies that administer those re-grant programs. Many of those deadlines are happening right now in the early fall. And if you miss it this time around, there will be another round of them next year. So those county history partnership program grants are available annually and are great opportunities for organizations to get access for planning money and project money for your historic site. So next slide, please. I also wanted to update you on a very exciting project that we at the Historical Commission have been working on in conjunction with the New Jersey State Council on the Arts. We have been working with Monument Lab based in Philadelphia for the last 3 years, actually. And it's been a really exciting collaboration. We, from the very beginning of our project related to this big 250th anniversary, have been looking for ways that we can engage the arts community in marking this really landmark anniversary. And we've been doing that in one way through this project with Monument Lab. So last summer, so the summer actually of 2020, we conducted a residency in partnership with the Arts Council and Monument Lab. And I want to tell you a little bit about that residency. It involved recruiting 9 artists and humanities scholars to develop concepts around history, commemoration, and memory. Through independent research and group convenings, the residents dug deep and envisioned new possibilities for appreciating, accessing, and participating in art and history. This included approaches to commemorating the revolutionary period that reflect on the legacies of Black and Indigenous historical figures and stories, and connections to contemporary revolutionary movements. The residency cohort approached commemoration from a range of viewpoints, media, and methods of participatory engagement, including quilting, murals, architecture, history, photography, augmented reality, and cultural and historical preservation. And I believe that in the chat, we're going to give you a link to see the report that Monument Lab has produced on this initial pilot residency. So we'll get that link in the chat for you, and by all means, dig into that and see some of the very provocative, creative, and inspiring concepts that our artists and scholars came up with. Now, we're engaged in the second phase of this work, and that is to actually invite 3 of those 9 residents to work on short videos presenting the visions that they created. So look for that work to move forward. It's happening right now, and we really do expect to have those completed videos certainly by early 2022. And finally, we are working with Monument Lab on a larger concept that this was just an initial pilot to test the waters for. We're working on a much larger concept for the 250th that obviously we'll have a lot more detail to share with you moving forward. Next slide, please. And now an update on a project that we've reported on several times in the past, and that is the survey of K-12 New Jersey social studies education that we conducted between January and June of 2020, a period of time that we all have emblazoned in our memories for sure. But we did conduct that survey, and while the impact of COVID did not make it possible for us to survey each individual school building as we had planned, we did produce an excellent sample from the 607 public schools who participated. And that represents, by the way, 446,754 students, New Jersey K-12 students, which is about 34% of that school population in our state. So we have an excellent sample from our survey work, and we are going to be presenting the findings of that survey in November. Next slide, please. So in November, and we will publicize this far and wide, we will be hosting a special webinar where you can, we hope, tune in or later watch the recording to learn more about the survey and the survey results. You're going to find that in our survey report, we have some really important material, and we want to thank Angel Santiago, New Jersey's 2020 Teacher of the Year, for writing an introduction for us. And as well, you will find in our report key findings from the survey, which will be of interest to anyone who has an interest in both social studies education and also in public history and how our public history resources can really be utilized in exciting ways with our school-age population. So we'll be sharing the raw data from the survey as well as the report online in an interactive website. So stay tuned. Next month is the presentation of that material. Now, another project that we're actively engaged in is one that will ultimately result in a new historical marker program for the state of New Jersey. So really over the last summer and early fall, we've had a terrific researcher working with us, Louise Fetter, and she's laying the groundwork for this new marker program. And what her painstaking research is focused on right now is creating a database of the two waves of historical markers that the state of New Jersey actually implemented. One was done in the 1930s and the second in the 1960s and 70s. And we are in great debt to Louise because she has really created a very comprehensive list of both of those waves of markers. Trust me when I tell you, it was not an easy task. And that's going to set us up for the next stage of our work, which is to take a look at those existing markers and think about the mark, and now envision that next stage, what a new marker, historical marker program for the state should look like, and also how we might want to update those markers that are still in place from those earlier waves. So look for more information on that, but I'm delighted to share with you that we have made great progress and actually are creating a great database of data on those early two waves of state markers. And now to talk about, and to give you an update on a couple of other really important initiatives we have going on, I'd love to turn the webinar over to Mark Lawrence, our program coordinator for Revolution NJ at the Historical Commission, to tell you a little bit about our professional development program that's well in the works. Mark, over to you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, as Sarah mentioned, we've discussed this in our past updates that we're working on creating a professional development series to help folks really integrate that interpretive framework that we shared with everyone earlier on this year. And the first part of that professional development will be launching in late November. It is going to be a webinar series that's based on each key theme of the interpretive framework. We are well along the way now in editing those videos and creating this series. Our scholars have submitted their material, and now we are working with our video producer to create these webinars. And they're going to be hosted online. We'll have an official launch for it, so keep your eyes open for an announcement for that. And these videos will be available for free to the public, and they'll have additional reading resources, FAQs, and also a transcript that can, help folks really engage with the material that's being discussed in the videos. Following that, in the beginning of next year, we're going to be hosting a monthly series of panel sessions in which we'll have a moderator talking to two scholars about interdisciplinary approaches to history. We're hoping that these conversations spark new ways of thinking about topics, specifically looking at things such as identity, social systems, how to do historical research, community engagement, things related to just a broader sense of public history. Our first panel of that will actually be looking at what is the American Revolution, and it's going to be really diving into different approaches to understanding what the American Revolution was. Following that, we'll be working on and releasing a Revolution NJ handbook. This will be sort of a complementary piece to our interpretive framework document that is out there right now. And this is meant to really instill sort of ideas and get folks thinking about how to take part in the 250th. And it's meant to be applicable to all sorts of organizations around the state. We're looking at it as a handbook for getting folks not just only in the history and arts excited, but getting the private sector on board, and really imagining how different aspects of our broader New Jersey community can take part in this initiative. And then we're hoping to, in the summer and fall months, to have in-person workshops on how to actually put all of this into action and how to really start networking with each other within the state, and bringing in folks with different types of experiences and backgrounds to help really instill all of the interpretive framework work that we're putting out there. Next slide, please. And while this is all going on, we have our working groups working currently. These are groups that we've put together from all sorts of representatives from the states, scholars, activists, community members, folks who are really invested in this Revolution NJ initiative. We've created separate working groups. As you can see on the slide, there are a number of different charges that were being asked of them to really look at and start developing and ideating programs for the public. And their main charge is to really come up with innovative, big ideas that are exciting and draw the public into this Revolution NJ initiative, and really make this a once in a generation type of moment for us. We're hoping that the programs that they come up with get everyone excited. And we're also going to be leaning on them to help us in tackling some of the public submission portals, public submissions of programs. So they're going to be reviewing and providing feedback to folks who might want to co-brand or take part in the Revolution NJ initiative themselves. I'm going to pass it back to Sarah.
Thanks, Mark. And now we wanted to share with you some dates, because we know everyone is excited, as we want you to be, about the next steps in our preparations for the 250th. So we want to give you a heads up on when some of the mile markers that we're going to be passing in the next 6 months or so. So first of all, in the first half of 2022, we will be releasing Revolution NJ branding and logo guidelines. So we are hard at work on those, as Janice reported on earlier, with our consultant, Princeton Partners, and we do anticipate making those available to you in the first half of next year. Secondly, while Mark described the great work that our working groups are undertaking, we also want to make it possible, and we welcome ideas from anyone who would like to submit a concept or an idea for a public program or event or initiative for the semi-quincentennial. So in March of 2022, we will be opening a submission portal where anyone can submit a concept or an idea that they would like us to consider as part of the Revolution NJ work. And then third, we know everyone's excited to hear the outcome of all this work on program development. So in July of 2022, we will be announcing the first set of co-sponsored public programs and events for Revolution NJ. So I hope that gives you some mile markers to put on your calendar for upcoming information release from Revolution NJ. We really look forward to sharing all of that information with you in the next few months. And now it's time for our special presentation. And I just want to say that I've been watching the work of Made by Us now for several years. And if you haven't had a chance to dip into what they've been working on, I'm just delighted we're able to share some of that with you today. So Mark, I'll turn it over to you to introduce our guest speaker.
Yes, thank you so much. And thank you so much, Ken, for joining us today. And Dr. Kenneth Cohen, he is a Hintz Secretarial Scholar and Curator at the Smithsonian National Museum of American History and the Director of the Museum Studies Program at the University of Delaware. In addition to his prize-winning scholarship on popular culture in early America, he has worked with dozens of museums across the country and around the world on interpretive planning and collections documentation. He serves as the lead curator for Made by Us, who Sarah just mentioned, whose work we are following super closely, and we're really excited to hear more about it today. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Kenneth Cohn.
Thanks so much, Mark. Great to be here, and really exciting to hear about your processes for public ideation and submission, because that sort of fits right in with the way Made by Us is organized and operating. So let me give you a brief introduction in case you haven't been following or participated in our programming before. And then I'll be happy to take any questions that people have. So Made by Us is an initiative that is being led by about 10 large museums spread around the country. And the goal is to engage young people, specifically ages 18 to 30, in museum content as a basis for their civic engagement. So, there's been a lot of sort of nonprofit development and organizing around civic engagement over the last 10 years, both in schools and out of schools, targeting this age group. But there have only been a handful of cases where historical content, and virtually zero cases where museum content in particular has been central to those efforts. And so Made by Us is sort of the marriage of civic engagement practices and historical content. And so it started by looking at a whole range of young people and doing a lot of intensive survey work of students, maybe somewhat akin to what's been done in your social studies survey, and then also sort of outside of school settings. There's been professional marketing firms involved in the process. And so identifying how to engage young people, of course, is a question that lots of museums are trying to answer. And so one of the ways that we found, one of the things we found out from this survey work on the front end, which was done sort of 2018, 2019, is that young people do view museums, like many other Americans, as very credible sources, but not necessarily as pluralist or collective or community-based as we might think of our work as being, of course. And so, coming up with strategies to network museums in doing this outreach, but to do it locally as part of a national network. So in some ways, sort of a national version of what NJ 250, it sounds like, is trying to do. Here's a look at the vision and mission for the project. I'll give you a few minutes rather than just sort of read it to you. And you can find more information about the program at History Made by Us, which is the URL for our website. And so how do we sort of act on the mission to try to fulfill the vision then? Well, here's a look at the anchor partners that sort of set up the project through a number of different sort of seed grants and funding. And then the anchor partners who have joined those steering committee sort of larger institutions in joining us through programming through our first 2 annual cycles, which were in 2020 and 2021. Well, I'll get to what those cycles were in a second, but first I want to sort of talk very briefly about sort of how this process operates and how Made by Us works. So we identified this target age group who seemed most open to engaging with museums and sort of wishing for ways to engage, but wanting to do that on sort of their terms. And so we did some more survey work within that age group cohort. And the marketing firm that's working with us developed these profiles of Generation Y, millennials, so-called, and Gen Z, the younger generation. these profiles of particular members of those generational cohorts. So with this information then, we developed advisory committees, reached out to social media influencers from these groups who fit these profiles, and we developed a sort of iterative process of listening to what they wanted and then offering ways that our collections and expertise can meet them where they are. And so this process sort of cycles out every time. And so in 2020, it actually opened just as the pandemic was hitting. So some of our participation rates for the My Wish for Us program, which was the first iteration of Made by Us, the first sort of program we executed, the participation rates weren't necessarily what we were looking for. We went back through phase 2 and went back to our audiences and said, okay, well, now we're in this sort of virtual pandemic environment. What are you looking for? And we developed what we call the Civic Season, which I'll come to here. So Civic Season is going to be an annual program now for Made by Us in some form or other. It takes place between Juneteenth and July 4th. The first one was just this past summer. And so the goal is to get people to engage in their local communities, to take civic action during this particular window, and that historical societies and museums, our member institutions, will provide avenues and pathways and programs for doing that. The season this summer was, we consider it to be a sort of raging success. There were 450 separate, distinct events at 179 nations, organizations nationwide across 33 states. You can take a look at some of those programs and some of the press that it generated, both digital and translated. Much of it, some of it was translated into print on the right. And so for next year, of course, the iterative nature of Made by Us means that we don't exactly know what next year's program is going to be. We've got to go back to our participants and to audience members who didn't participate, but who are in the cohorts that we've identified, and go back and say, okay, we did this last year. What would build on that? What would be some ways that you're interested in engaging? And so a lot of that is kind of the public ideation, public engagement feedback loop that I heard Sarah and Mark just talking about. And so I think there's a lot of overlap there. And so, Made by Us is another platform and a nationwide platform and network whereby, you may not have to sort of reinvent an entire wheel for a program that fits into the various themes leading up to the 250th in 2026, which is also our goal. So there's a number of different programs and platforms by which we share what our member institutions are doing. So you can tweak what somebody else is doing. You can create something new and share it with other institutions. You can network and come up and tell your communities that what they're doing is in conversation with somebody, with an institution in Kansas and in Texas and elsewhere. So there's a lot of opportunities for networking, for programming development, for professional development, and of course, hopefully for engaging young people with your collections, sites, and content. So that is where I'll sort of stop with the sort of brief overview, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Cohn. I do want to start off with one question, actually, see if folks, it might trigger some more follow-up questions, but you've mentioned the iterative process a couple of times, and I would love to hear why you think that particular process is super important for engaging the public in the manner that you think, and especially like if you're trying to target a particular demographic.
Yeah, for a couple of reasons, right? One of the tricks, as we all know, right, is generating long-standing and repeat visitation and interest in our institutions, particularly in this age cohort. And so, one of the strategies that we have found that's worked within the small pool of folks in those cohorts who are on our advisory committees, who have agreed to be sort of social influencers on our content, is that it is our returning to them for feedback that keeps them interested, right? It keeps us on their radar, not just by saying, oh, here's the next program, but by asking for them to contribute in some way. And so, you know, I don't know exactly what your plan is in terms of sort of public generation of ideas, but a lot of the marketing research that's out there shows that if that's not a one-stop process, you get more investment. So if there's one call, that's great. But if there's a follow-up call or a way for people to revise and contribute to selection and development processes beyond that initial sort of public call, then at least the data suggests there might be a more robust engagement that follows.
Thank you so much. I'm going to pass it off to Amy, who is going to be fielding some of the public questions for you.
Yeah, so one question we got was, can you give examples of some programs from this past summer?
I can. There, of course, were a number of virtual programs with young people at local institutions, youth advisory committees, and their sort of youth advisory entities, however they create them, in conversation with some of our influencers who are sort of semi-famous or tangential celebrities, B-list celebrities, in the worlds of many of our audiences in this cohort. And so some of those online programs, you know, achieved 500 or 1,000 views over the course of their initial week of posting, which are pretty good numbers in our experience. There were more traditional sort of programs about engaging folks with museum content and the ways that museum collections and standing exhibits or existing programming connects to civic needs and sort of controversial issues in the moment. So those were probably the two sort of big buckets where a lot of these programs fell into, but there were a number of different pathways. There were petitions to state legislatures about, I don't know if there was any specifically about historical markers given the conversation we just had, but there were ones about historical recognition and sort of calendar days, you know, a state day for some particular event from a community that had been underrepresented before. So there were a number of different sort of programs that the local institutions developed themselves, either in communication with each other or just independently, and made by us provided a sort of platform. We have, you know, a Medium page. We have social media accounts that we can use to sort of amplify your messaging and to share your programming more broadly. And we do that for our partners very regularly. There's also opportunities for you to sort of take over our megaphones and use them for your content as well. So there's a number of different ways to use our national platforms, but what we don't do is sort of say, here is the specific kind of program you should run. We're asking everybody to run that program. That's not what we do. We're more of like a platform and a megaphone and a sort of magnifying lens on some strategies for developing those programs related to the connections between history and civic engagement as we work up to the 250th.
Great. Another question is, how can state heritage organizations get updates on what resources are available from Made by Us? Is there an email newsletter sign up?
There is. So if you the email newsletter requires you to sign up as a partner institution. Where is that slide? There it is. So Caroline Klebanoff is the program director. She's our Mark Lawrence, and so I think Mark has her email and can share it. I can do it at the end. I can't do it. I'm not very good at doing these things while I'm also talking at the same time. But she's the point of contact and can get you on our list, and then that will get you onto our email blasts. And we do monthly what are called Dream Team meetings, which are whoever in your institution would be sort of leading your charge on this kind of programming. can join members from all of these institutions on really engaging, basically workshop calls that are sort of every month, every 6 weeks. And we do a lot of breakout room work on particular themes or topics. So if you have a sort of rough idea, but you're not quite sure how you want to sort of develop it, you can meet with folks from all across the country at different kinds of institutions. I mean, it's a great sort of fertile ground for growing these ideas. So there's the newsletter, there's the so-called Dream Team meetings, and then there are executive meetings if your senior administration is interested in sort of staying in the loop with other senior administrators at your institution and these other partner institutions.
And one more question. Can you tell us a little bit about how you identify the respondents that you engage in the iterative process?
Can you repeat that question? That's a good one.
Yeah, can you tell us a little bit about how you identify the respondents that you engage in the iterative process?
Yes. So, so they're basically in two buckets. Some are, one is groups that have already responded to us in the past and who we go back to, because as I mentioned to Mark, that's one way that, you obviously keep people engaged going forward. But then the second is folks who, well, I guess there's three buckets. The first is the folks who have already responded before. The second are sort of influencers who we haven't necessarily worked with yet, or who haven't responded before, but we sort of follow up again and say, oh, we reached out about this past idea, and now we've got this new one coming. So are you interested in working with us on this? And then the third is through our partner institutions, where we'll put out a call to partner institutions and say, hey, we've got an opportunity for young people in your communities to participate in this kind of call or this kind of session. Are there contacts in your community that we can follow up with? And so we've got a very large bank of those contacts now that we use to sort of see who might be interested in any given workshop project.
Great, that's all the questions that I have coming in for now, if you want to keep going.
Well, look, it's great to be on the call with you all, and it was really nice to see all the different institutions represented here. And so, I think we're really excited about possibilities of participating with you and the ways in which our sort of practice meshes with a lot of the sort of ideas and developing programs that are coming out of NJ 250. So we'll hope that this isn't the last time that we bump into each other, and we'll look forward to hearing from you.
And can I just butt in to point out to everybody that right there on that slide is New Jersey Historical Commission as one of your anchor partners.
That's right.
We're proud to be on that list.
Thank you so much. Yeah, oh, right here. I was trying to highlight it, but it didn't work. Anyway.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think, Amy, we can, if I'm not mistaken, we can move on to other questions that folks have submitted.
We had one question from Linda Barth, and it is, can we please include the numbers 250 on the logo?
Hi, Linda. Nice to see you here today. I have a couple of answers for you, Linda. And first of them is to say that the Revolution NJ logo went through a very careful process of development. I think many of you will recall we actually ran a competition, a design competition, and selected a winner who had created the prototype that became the logo that you will see now. But I also want to let you know that we took that logo and we worked with Dana Communications, which is the consultant that works with travel and tourism. And with their help, we were able to do some market testing with that logo. So we actually sent it out to a variety of individuals of different ages and descriptions, and gathered feedback and reaction to the logo itself, which was very positive. So we were careful and deliberative as we developed the logo for Revolution NJ. But I want to tell you another part to the story, and that is that we are the state recognized entity that is tasked with developing programs for the anniversary. And by that, I mean Revolution NJ, our partnership between the Historical Commission and Crossroads of the American Revolution. And because of our role as New Jersey's planning group, we also are in communication with America 250, which is the national commemorative organization preparing the nation's observance of the anniversary. And we're in negotiations right now with them to have access to their branding as well. So while those negotiations are not yet complete, we do expect them to wrap up very shortly. And one of the anticipated outcomes, and I want to underscore anticipated because we haven't finished that negotiation yet, but an anticipated outcome is that we would have a secondary logo that we would use, which would tie into the national effort. And so that logo, as designated by America 250, would be America 250 NJ. That's in fact, you can see that in use over in Pennsylvania, where the Pennsylvania Commission is just using that America 250 PA. So I hope that answers your question, Linda. And obviously, we're delighted to continue to discuss that if you would like.
Another question from Peter Primavera. Could you speak to Crossroads' effort to involve the private sector, especially travel and tourism?
Right. So obviously, we in this whole initiative have been working with the travel and tourism with Jeff Vassar and his team. So that's something that clearly, is something that we have worked on from the beginning and are continuing to do so. We're also, one of the 5 working groups is the Heritage Tourism Working Group. And so there's a lot of efforts there to get the private sector involved in that as well. We're working with Cheryl Hargrove, who I think many of you know from other presentations that we've had. She's a nationally known heritage tourism expert. I am going to be speaking at this conference next month. We're also obviously, have efforts like the heritage tourism apps that we're developing, the audio tours, where we have, private support for that. And, there's opportunities to involve a lot of private industry in that as well. We're doing our Crossroads signage project, where we're getting support. Just this past weekend, we were at Caldwell Parsonage unveiling a sign thanks to the Union Foundation. We have one from NJM Insurance Group that'll be at the Van Horn House, be unveiled there. So, we're involving, and also with the, capital campaign that we're working on, we're clearly looking to identify individuals, corporations, foundations, involve the public sector in this important work. So it's something that is key to all that we're doing.
A question probably for Sarah from Roger Williams. How do we request a historical marker?
Hi, Roger. Nice to see you here. As I mentioned in my update there, we are in kind of the first stage of the preparation of this new program. So you can't request a marker yet. However, you will be able to. This stage is to first figure out what's left of those previous marker series that the state installed. The second stage is going to be to look at what remains of those markers and evaluate what needs to be updated, what maybe no longer is accurate, etc. And then after we've done that, we'll be moving on to really designing the new, the process for proposing new markers around the state. So just bear with us a little bit longer. Stay tuned. We'll have more detail on what that process will be. I hope, next year in 2022.
A quick follow-up question. Do you have the marker list by county?
She's creating, our wonderful research assistant on this project is creating a searchable database. So we should be able to sort those by county. I will tell you, just FYI, she's been working on the elusive list of 60s and 70s markers. And I think she told me, Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong, there were as many, they aren't all there anymore, there were as many as 400 of those. So there were quite a few. Have I got that right, Mark?
That is correct.
Plus the 30s markers. And do you recall the number of 30s markers, Mark?
I do not recall the number of 30s markers. I think it might have been around 100, but I don't want to say.
There were fewer of the 30s markers than what went up in the 60s and 70s. So, but more on that, obviously, as I mentioned, as we move forward.
A question from Paul Soltis regarding the 2020 Visitor Readiness Assessment. Any updates on the implementation of its recommendations, including a state American Revolution Center?
I'm thinking, Janice, would you like to just respond with the ongoing, efforts in that regard?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work with that, and we'll have more to report shortly. So I think exciting work, and it really is key to make sure that sites are ready, and that's a focus that we will have. And I would assume we'll probably next time we meet, we'll have more things that we can share with this group on that.
A question from Nancy. What are the efforts to get municipalities, i.e. municipal government officials, to know of this, participate, and support this? What outreach has been done to them?
Hi, Nancy. And that's, I would say that that's very much an ongoing process for us. One of the things that's going on, and I'll let Janice comment on this further, is we are working with our consultants, Princeton Partners, to develop a longer range plan for outreach to all these critical communities. And obviously our municipalities and counties are key among that. Janice, do you want to fill in a little bit more on that?
I'm sorry, the question went away off of chat. So
Sure. And the question was, what kind of outreach have we conducted so far to municipalities and counties? And I mean, one thing I can say from our perspective was we have already over the last 2 years been working closely with our county contacts. Certainly through the re-grant program and through other means, we have been really feeding them information about just as we are today, about planning for the semi-quincentennial. So counties, we have done a lot of outreach with them, primarily through the county cultural and heritage agencies. The municipalities we've had some contact with as well, but I think in the upcoming plan for our overall communication strategies, we'll be implementing more targeted outreach to that group, moving forward. Is that a good summary, Janice?
Yeah, I do believe so. And I think the other thing is that Crossroads board members have also been reaching out, where they have contacts in counties to try to determine where there are resources also to do some of the work that would be needed to prepare for the 250th as well.
Kind of a follow-up question from Roger. Many sites, societies, and organizations are beginning to create America 250 initiatives. Explain how Crossroads will capture information about these grassroots initiatives so we can provide tourists with a one-stop shop to learn about all that New Jersey is doing. He offers an example of the Massachusetts calendar, which is revolution250.org.
Right, Roger, I'm very familiar with that. And I think I'm going to my simple answer to that, and Janice will no doubt have more to add, but the simple answer to that is yes, we're planning to have a vehicle for us to do that. So we don't have that ready to roll out to you today, but that is definitely part of the plan, is to have a one-stop shop where folks can land to get information on all Revolution NJ activities and events.
Absolutely. And, in the meantime, obviously Crossroads is sharing information. So, please provide that information. Amy is probably the best one to send that to. I guess in addition to that, we do have these working groups, and the idea is that the working groups would be, a conduit to get some additional information in addition to the advisory council.
And I wanted to add just one other detail for those of you who aren't familiar with Revolution 250, which is the Massachusetts counterpart to Revolution NJ. there's a really good historical reason why they're out early with this. They were the first state to do anything with this 250th, and that's because they had significant events that happened early. In fact, they've already had a lot of events that they've done because of the historical record. So there's a reason why they were in the calendar position that they are. But I will say, just to blow our own horn here in New Jersey a little bit, they have only just received state recognition as the official planning body for the 250th. So while they've been out in front with some of their events because of the historical calendar, actually we did get a jump on them thanks to the governor and the legislature in terms of actually getting our planning recognized and underway. But they're our good friends in Massachusetts, right, Janice?
Absolutely. Great. So I think
one more clarification question from Kathleen. Please clarify when to apply for a 250th project.
I'm sorry, say that again. Okay. That's a grant related question, I'm guessing. And I think that came from Kathleen. Kathleen, you are most welcome, if you'd like very specific information, to contact the Historical Commission's grants team. For the CHIP program, which is the County Regrant Program, Nicole Premiani in our office is the mastermind behind that. And the reason why I'm shoving it off on her is because there are 21 counties. We do have a list on our website of them, but Nicole could perhaps guide you more easily to the specific county that you might have an interest in. Our programs, our direct grant awards, we keep those dates posted on our website under the grants tab. Upcoming project grant deadlines will be in early spring, and we will send those around to you as well. And as for the DEAI program and the COVID relief program, those deadlines will be announced after our commission meeting later this month, and those will be coming up very shortly towards the end of this year. So keep that in mind that before the end of this year, we will be looking to see your applications for both the COVID relief program and the DEAI program as well.
I think, and mindful of the time, I think Sue Kaufman was going to give you some information about some resources that we're going to make available when we're done with this call.
Hi, everyone. Just wanted to let you know that if you signed up for this session, or if you got an invitation, basically, you will be receiving an email with links to, first of all, the replay of this event, and also the resources that both Sarah and Janice and our guest speaker provided today. So that's the list of available grants and the timelines and deadlines for that, resources from Made by Us, including how to sign up for information, National Park Service grants from the American Battlefield Protection Program, and more. So you'll have that for yourself as a reference to hang on to. It will also be on the Crossroads website, free for you to share with your colleagues and your fellow volunteers, and to reference yourself in the future. Thanks.
Great. And so Sarah, you would like to thank everybody for attending.
Absolutely. We want to thank everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you at our next quarterly meeting, which we will announce very shortly. In the meantime, I hope you know where to find us. We're always happy to answer questions. And most importantly, just happy to have all of you engaged in this project with us. Thanks so much.